Detroit, 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 Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit, Detroit, different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And I'm welcoming back definitely a guest and someone that is also connected to people that we share and got mad love for at Detroit is Different. So we think about a lot of this community. She actually connected her family here and many, 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 many other people. Very creative, especially when it comes to putting together words, even in other languages. Ber-Henda, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Kari. How are you?
Good. All is definitely well. I feel like you got on the specs that's like, all right, I'm ready to capture something colorful, cool, and creative, and I wouldn't expect anything other than that from you.
Thank you.
All right. So when we talk about that, you're bringing together a collection of women that are also adding a lot in the creativity of words and bringing to life other things and visions. And this is also connected to teen hype. And if you guys don't know about teen hype, what are you doing not knowing that it's certain places and spaces that teenagers are going to always be welcome to do what they want to do at a time where it seems like that discussion is something that people ain't necessarily vibing with, but teen hype is always vibing with how to get these teenagers connected to what they want to do, how they follow their passions, and also how they express themselves. So when I think about that expression and the expressions that you always offer through creativity, this fits in a world together. What's happening?
All right. Yeah. So I'm super excited. I'm part of a 22 women, I would say, constellation of, yes, I'm a multi-author in a multi-author book that's actually now an internationally best-selling book called the Modern Day High Priestess.
Okay.
And that was the brainchild of Melissa Keenan, who is now an 8-time international best-selling author.
Okay.
And so she puts together these anthologies for truth-telling, particularly for women or those who are female identified, to help others move through their own dark nights of the soul, their own perhaps threshold moments. Every story that is in this anthology is so rich. So there are 4 of us from the Metro Detroit area. So myself, Tiara Boyd, Janine Spencer, Gilbert, and Carina Jackson. So all of us have gone through some really dark, dark periods. So Carina is talking about, and you've talked about this before on the show, the position that Black women hold in our families, and in many times almost at their peril. And so she talks about having a brain tumor that nearly took her out. And so she was in a coma. Janine talks about, being a single mother and being an entrepreneur and dealing with caregiving, because I think in our families it's customary that somehow the girls inherit the responsibility of holding families together. Even when we ourselves are still growing up, we're often assigned the role of caretaker, caregiver, even particularly of other siblings. And Tiara goes through her journey of healing and reconciliation through the mother wound. And, that's also in our community, we don't talk bad about mom. You got God and then mom. And in many cases, the generational curses that exist within our community are literally passed down until someone is brave enough to break those. So we're chronicling our stories. Well, we have chronicled our stories inside this Modern Day High Priestess. We even have a dear sis, Trish Meekins, who is coming in from Canada. She also contributed to the book. She's First Nations Anishinaabe. She's going to be doing some wonderful grounding meditation and land acknowledgement. And I know many of your listeners are familiar with land acknowledgement, but I think it's really particularly powerful too when we have the tribal affiliation, show up. And so we have Lauren, who's also coming in, and Jennifer Seafrit. So we have, I believe Detroit is always been a magical city, always been a place of love and a place that welcomes. And I'm really excited that not only to be part of this project, but have Teen Hype be the home to which we're hosting this event. Because, when we think about Detroit, and especially when we think about conferences or events, they usually go to Troy or they go to Birmingham, and the outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's super important that we're in Detroit proper and in a place, as you just so eloquently stated, about what Teen Hype means to the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing. In fact, one of my mentees, her sister, not only went through Teen Hype, but met her husband.
Ain't that something?
Yes, they met at Teen Hype.
Ain't that something?
And now have welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world.
Wow.
From Teen Hype.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like now the tradition carries on.
That's right.
They're going to get old enough. They're going to be like, what are you doing?
Right. Find love at Teen Hype.
There we go. Send the little homie on to Teen Hype when they get of age.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't understand you. Mm-hmm. So definitely this connection that you speak of, these are definitely some stories that I could see have connections with different people. And you talk about this being a collection of 22.
22.
And these 22 women are across the world?
Across the world. Across the world. And I find that that's so interesting that, when we think about our stories and the power that they hold, I'll be transparent. I grew up in a household, you don't tell people your business.
Mm-hmm.
You keep things, you keep family business, family. And as we see in our, social media, things going viral about, I think most recently, Brandy and Wanye, at the time she was underage, and why didn't anyone say anything? And of course, we know the story of Aaliyah and so many other, young women that might have, have been in relationships with older men that have taken advantage of the situation, and there's no conversation about or interception of it. And so when I think about the role of the modern day high priestess, whether you look at it as the high priestess or a big mama or auntie, there's definitely a role that is so necessary, whether you have children or not, in our community, for us to be village centric, to be village minded, because it doesn't matter who the kids belong to. They belong to all of us. And these stories that we're sharing, again, 22 different women from all over the world. I'm reading through stories and I'm like, that's my story too. I can look at it and say, yeah, that's my story too. In some cases, women have walked away from their families of origin because of toxicity. I'm talking about debilitating loss of miscarrying and how that affects and how that shapes you, or coming to stunning realizations of things that you might be afraid to say out loud. And so we're hoping that with this event that you come to witness, but also be witnessed, because I think there's something really empowering when you can say, me too. When you can say, I can move through this. I was carrying shame, but perhaps at this event, we hope that you can put it down. Guilt, regret. These are all the things that I believe stifle us from becoming and being fully who we are. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mama Frida Sampson. I know is also a friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was very grateful to have her write an endorsement in the book.
Wow.
Yeah, to endorse my chapter of the book.
Definitely. Frida's certainly one of my OGs, almost like a mom, auntie, whatever figure. She actually called me the other day. I was like, she was like, they don't think I know you. I was like, for real? And I definitely, I've owed her way more than, it's beyond sandwich now. It's like, it's like surf and turf.
That's right. That's right. Take her to dinner. She's earned it.
Definitely. And, when you talk about this, how did you even connect to this project? What was the gateway? How did you find out, or how did they find you? What was the bond?
So it has been, I think, one of the most serendipitous moments in my life. So it started initially, reached out to a fellow coach. She lives in California.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sharing with her, she's always had a deep love for me and deep love for the work that I do, and especially my work with girls. And so I produced a podcast last summer with the She Project, which it's a girls mentoring program that's attached to Mariners Inn.
Okay.
So initially it started with the girls with fathers in recovery. But it has since expanded to, any girl. I believe they start at either 12 or 13 to 18 can be part of the She Project. And so we were raising money for the podcast. And so I reached out to my friend Jessica and I told her about the initiative. And she said, well, let me see who I know that might be interested in supporting you and supporting the girls. Enter Melissa Keenan. This is the founder of Hope Publishing. So shout out to Hope Publishing that published this anthology. And as I started to talk to her, I shared with her that I believe business has to be a constellation. I think that, I'm evolving my language. So initially I said, okay, I'm creating an ecosystem. And I said, no, it's deeper than an ecosystem, because in an ecosystem, it's like a cog in a wheel. One piece falls out, you just replace it with something else. But in a constellation, Kari, you can't easily replace a star. Like once that star goes out, that's it. It throws off the whole configuration. So we have to be really judicious about how we use our energy, how we use our light, but also be concerned about the person to our left or to our right, because we all are part of the whole. And I shared with her the vision of this podcast for girls, and also the vision that I have for my own podcast and now talk show.
Okay.
Right. And so she was like, oh, I love this. I want to be part of it. Because the way my system works, from everything from ticket sales to the vendors that we have. So, I mean, I'm so blessed that team is Black. We got a blackity black, like every part of the production team is Black. But also our collaborators are also women. So Bamboo, shout out to Bamboo, women-owned space.
Yeah.
Right? Production team, Damon and his daughter, Kimora. So also I know friend. Yep. Okay, good friend. Good friends of the show. To my podcast producer out in Massachusetts, Bethany. Shout out to Bethany Hawkins, Black woman raising 3 Black boys out here. Yeah. Been married to her baby daddy for over 20 years.
That's what's up.
Yep. So, and then of course our artistic director, Christine, who is expecting her first.
Wow, that's
beautiful. So it's like seeing how every single person plays an intricate part. When money comes in, this is where it circulates.
That's beautiful. And also just even in the arc of it, I find it always so unique when you're connecting through definitely, obviously, spoken word is something that you've done all the time, but also the written word. So it's like you're talking to a publisher more so about the spoken word, but also it's like just as much in written word. Like I find that like kind of in the world of irony also. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is interesting. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the realm in which where a lot of that connection and bond was built. And then through that, a relationship comes together where now, like I guess in this same exchange and build with what she is pouring into the projects that, you had offerings for collaboration. Right. Now she comes back with the same offering from collaboration from you. Like, yo,
Yeah, and it keeps on going. That's right. That's right. And what I love too, she's offered, so to all of those who are, under the sound of our voice, hear this. At the event, she is offering a space in the next anthology. Okay. And I cannot say or tout this enough. There's so many of us that have stories. And I think that one of the biggest regrets that we have sometimes is that we don't say everything that we need to say. Whether it's just for self or a confession or a declaration. When we go through things, I mean, we all go through things. But I just look at even my mother. I'm sure that there's several things that she took with her to the grave. But now that I find myself trying to recall certain things, and as you know, our history is predominantly oral. Unless you have a good documentary in the family, our stories are going to be oral traditions. So I find myself, going through old videos of her, captured of her, recalling conversations that we've had. I even found a letter that her priest wrote at St. Matthew, St. Joseph's.
Wow.
I think I shared this last time I was here. That her GM challenged her and said that she was at a banquet when Dr. King was here at the Poor People's March. And so finding that letter, I'm like, so how do I preserve this? Because this is history, and this isn't like ancient history.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm encouraging anyone that's like, what is this modern day high priest? Like, what is that? What does that mean? For me, culturally, spiritually, and emotionally, it's the position that women hold in community. I will say explicitly, for me, it's the position that Black women hold in community. We all know that woman that when the chips are down, we go to. When something needs to be figured out, we know Mama so-and-so knows what to do. When there's an argument, there's animosity or there are beefs that exist, we know that there's that voice that can come in and be that voice of reason and have us, go to our mutual corners or kiss and make up. And I think that has been part of the spine that has held us together. We all know that woman that has that touch, the gift that's maybe assigned the mac and cheese, for holiday, right? But I know that for those who are listening, because Detroit is just, to me, just rich with story and history. We all have a story. And I hope that any one of the attendees that comes takes the opportunity to be published in the next anthology, because like I said, Melissa knows what to do. She knows what to do. This is her 8th time being a best-selling author in this in the anthology world. And I think that that's something to marvel at. She's an independent publisher, so she's not connected to like Penguin or Doubleday or any of the larger publishing houses. She does this independently.
That's beautiful. With this, you speak so much about at the event, when you'll be there. When is this happening? How do I connect? How do I get there? What should I do?
What should you do to be present? So you need to go to Modern Day High Priestess. We have the information. And that'll be in the show notes. You go to Eventbrite, get your ticket for Modern Day High Priestess on April 27th. Yes, in the heart of tourist season, the best season there is, but in the heart of tourist season, it'll be Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. at Teen Hype down on Franklin. So if you're familiar with Bricks Wine Bar, so shout out to another Black-owned business, Bricks Wine Bar, you can join us there. Tickets are actually about halfway sold out. So get your ticket of 10 or 12. Go ahead and make sure that we sell out. And we also have sponsorship opportunities too. So shout out to business owners who are looking for heightened visibility, because with this anthology, like I said, 22 women spanning the globe, this is global visibility. So even though the event is local, we're talking about an opportunity to not only shine a light on the 4 women from Detroit that are featured here, and of course our amazing sister authors that are coming in, but this is an opportunity for us as a city to bear witness to one another. And again, there is just nothing more powerful than the ability to own and stand in your story and in your truth, because I do believe that one of the keys to liberation is imagination, but also the ability to alchemize what has been given to you in your life and share it with someone else.
Okay, so I naturally got to ask, your relationship with the different women that will be present, how did you spark those conversations? Was it already like some of these stories that you were already aware of, or was it just one day, it's like, you know what? Let me shoot a text this way. Like, what was that?
It was literally that. It was like, let me shoot a text this way. Because the author was the publisher was really intentional about having diverse voices. And I was like, I'm from like the blackest city. I'm from a chocolate city. So let me go into the text and say like, hey girl, what you got up? I think you would be really good. I think you have a story. I think you have something to say. I think you should share this. So literally in group chats.
Okay. And was this like already kind of like knowing some stories, like especially when you talk about the tumor? My mom passes of a brain aneurysm, which all right, first
condolences,
off,
so sorry to hear
shout
that.
out to, thank you. Shout out to Dr. Rose, Uplifted, when she was here. Just so much more being explored about many different things in what we look at in Western medicine about a lot of things in the body, but definitely the brain. As I usually uplift in most of these, that some of the arcs of this has existed in some of our traditions in certain ways that we only begin to understand more and more, similar to like what happens in the realm of Western medicine as well. With that being said, anyone that has, what would I say? Anyone that has connected with people with brain injuries, anyone that has done caretaking for someone with like a dementia or Alzheimer's, set with people, a lot of what would be explored, any form of what would happen in the brain is usually reactionary. And I guess you could speak to like most medicine being reactionary in Western medicine, meaning that something happens and then it leads to it. I uplift this because not just my mother, but many other women, definitely many other Black women, you know, and I think Black men too. I mean, you could be sitting with tumors, aneurysms, different things going on, and you just, this isn't just usually a part of what we consider like an annual or even like maybe like a 5-year checkup. So with that being said, her being, I guess, open enough and vulnerable about it and uplifting that, hopefully it can even like maybe highlight where a person can be aware, because, you know, what you may think is a headache could be something that could be explored and looked into a little bit more.
Kari, I'm telling you, so you must have been ear hustling on this. That's what was happening to my friend Carina. That's headaches. And when you have a big girl job like she does, so shout out to Carina, who she's the COO over at Mariners Inn. So you think it's just the stress of a job. And so it can be so easy to dismiss. And then I think also, too, as Black women, because there is so much on our shoulders at any given time. I mean, I'm a caregiver and a full-time entrepreneur, so I have to be more vigilant and a lot more paced about what goes on in my body, so that I don't, because it can be very easy to dismiss. And headaches, my stomach, you maybe popping over the counter pill, and you keep going. And even in my own story, when we talk about tumors, I had a fibroid tumor. I had a fibroid tumor, Kari, that's maybe about 5 to 7 pounds.
Wow.
That had attached itself to my, I think it was my right ovary.
Wow.
And had I not lost my job, I probably would have just kept going to work. I was tired all the time, really long menstrual cycles. And so because it happened, so I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
And so I kept going. And then I finally got checked. I said, well, before this insurance runs out, let me go to the doctor and see what's really going on with me. And the doctor's face, her eyes got big. She said, you got to get this out.
Yeah.
Just a routine exam. She said, you got to get this out of you. You got to get this operated on.
Yeah.
And she was like, how long has it been here? And I was ashamed, because I let it anesthetize, to the size that it was. And so on the initial view of it, she thought it was maybe about the size of a football.
Wow.
But come to find out, it was much bigger than that.
Wow.
And so I'm carrying this mass in my body. And then, we want to go metaphysical on it, repressed creativity. I think that I had allowed myself distance from the creativity, from the art, poetry. I also danced as well, Afro-Cuban dance. Really any dance form. I love to dance. And I think that I had just allowed life to interrupt that part of myself. And like you were saying about Western medicine is very compartmentalized. But we know within our tradition, particularly African traditions, there's no separation between the mind, the body, and the spirit. It all flows together. And so just as much as I'm sitting here talking to you, our moms, our grandmothers, our aunties, our grandfathers, our uncles, they're in this room too.
Very much so. Very much so. And just sharing that I love what you offered. And many, we hear these things constantly. I also understand in the same arc, anybody that's Black that has susceptibility, especially a lot of Black men that look at the doctors like it's reason. It's reason. It's definitely reason. But with it, I do think that at times, sometimes figuring out how to navigate the space and place so that you can ensure whatever you're experiencing is covered. Here's another one of those weird realities about Western medicine too. And even if you choose to like connect this with nowadays, I guess people are doing more of this, like, what do they call it? Like medical traveling, as I know a lot of people that have done it, especially with Mexico now having, I want to say, free medical, free healthcare for all residents. So with this, it still even helps you with that. Like part of it similar to, it's so weird, like with cars, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the first thing that the insurance people are going to say is like, let's see your oil change record. It's similar with medical too. So they will want to see a record of you continually having. So the thought process of like, I got insurance, but you don't never go can still kind of cause some cogs in the systems of what could and what could not happen. At times you just may want that diagnosis to know just how to move through things. But I definitely know, not just with my mother, but with others, but definitely with my mother, a couple of checks, a couple of scans a lot earlier from someone similar to, I'm guessing, the professional that was with you during that examination. Because at times, everything may not necessarily be checked. It may be just that one person that's like, hey, let's do this. And that could be what could lead to more healing in your life. So be at least a little bit open to the willingness. If you have reasons to be susceptible, still have some form of analysis and looking at what it's going to be. You know what I'm saying?
Because we're always at the top, right? Hypertension, diabetes, Black women still, across socioeconomics, high infant mortality rate.
Very much so.
Right? So we're right there at the top. Heart disease.
Yeah.
Breast cancer.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, just a couple of days ago, I was interviewing one of the sisters that built the birthing center here, and speaking in reference to that.
Yeah,
and,
was it Leslie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's very real, and it was so interesting. I was talking about shout out to Professor Lovejoy. It's a professor that something completely different at U of M, but near the end of his 10-year run, he runs into two sisters that are professors there. I want to say one's adjunct, one's like a newly tenured professor at U of M, and they're just like talking to him about like just the probability of like moving forward with some research in reference to Black medicine, and he just kind of like had no idea with this, but he's built since then like a study kind of connecting to things, and I laid medical apartheid on him. I was like, I think you need this more than I do. I'll get another copy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Next time I see him, I'll hit him with some Layla Africa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but with this, like, just like,
and we're in the middle of Black Maternal Health Week, so
very true.
Yes.
When we're recording this right now,
at the
time of recording, yes.
At the time of recording,
yes.
we're in this, and so it's so interesting that you bring that up, because when we think about reproduction, environment plays such a pivotal role in one who's carrying life, and so when we look at our food systems and water and all of that plays a part in how the body gestates and holds and carries life. And sometimes, again, when we're just so used to things being difficult or just used to it being hard, because you're used to it doesn't mean that it's normal. And in many cases, you will have to advocate for yourself. So, like you said, the Detroit Birthing Center, shout out to Mothering Justice and the work that they do, the Wisdom Institute, the work that they do, Sasha Center, the work that they do in healing us and restoring us so that we can break some of those patterns, and and amazing work that they do using men also as allies and advocates as well. So I think that there's, again, that all goes back to our word. It all goes back to story and archiving. And everyone that I just named, these organizations and these individuals, it is so important that we document. We document Detroit is different, because that you are part of the Detroit history. You are in the making of being a good ancestor. And so who's going to tell, your story unless we document it? Maybe we're not writing as much anymore, but we have things like podcasts and things that are audio. But it's important because if we don't hold our mics and hold our pens, who's telling our story?
Lord knows, depending upon the story, date, time, the iteration, and what the subject was.
That is correct.
It could be more entertaining than others, as far as me. But definitely. So with that being said, Uplift, when is this happening again, and how do people connect?
Absolutely. So we would love to see you on April 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Teen Hype. Myself, Carina Jackson, Tiara Boyd, Janine Spencer-Gilbert, along with Jennifer Seafrit, Lauren Dickinson, and Trish Meekins, and of course, our High Priestess of Ceremonies, Melissa Keenan, and then the amazing and the incomparable Charnel James. Shout out to Charnel, who's a licensed social worker and the founder of My Dear Self-Care. She'll be acting as our calibrator to set the tone for the evening. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't name just one more time Teen Hype. We're so grateful to their support and love, and in the work that they're doing with healing circles. They're legitimately creating healing spaces and healing activations for people in the community so that we can be well.
Yeah, definitely providing a space and place where young people can, as I say, like really make some connections and expressions, because sometimes, Lord knows, as I always say, I was the most intelligent I ever was at the age of 16. So
of course you were. Because the wisdom of 16-year-olds.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes it takes a different type of energy to keep the pace with that genius, And Teen Hype is definitely one of those spaces and places when at times parents just don't understand. Shout out to Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince. That being said, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Definitely.
All right.
Peace.
Detroit, 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 Detroit.